I swear this stuff is just getting more and more absurd and ridiculous by the day, and we need to keep up because we all know AI spending means a lot to us in the economy, okay? If AI spending goes away, people get scared, companies get scared, they start firing, it impacts you, you get fired. You get the point. We just saw Nvidia announce they're partnering with who else other than one of the most powerful and most wealthy nations on the planet, the United States, to build the next world's largest supercomputer to accelerate drug discovery, to accelerate the development of more sustainable energy like nuclear fusion. There's a lot to talk about with this deal in particular and how it opens the door to many deals in the future between the US government, between Nvidia, between AMD. This certainly makes for the very intriguing growth story and probably will look really good when earnings come around. But this video isn't going to be about Nvidia's deals in particular, but you need to understand it. And to understand it, I very much encourage you to watch this video here. We just talked about this yesterday in plenty of detail, but I value your time, so I'm going to simplify it for you. Basically, AMD made a deal with the government. Nvidia made a much larger deal with the government a day later. Pretty convenient, isn't it? And how it's just one of the many deals in the direction of making absolutely mega deals for Nvidia, for AMD, the kingpins of the AI data center build out. Really just Nvidia, but you know, AMD's hanging around. They're doing something here. Today's video is more going to be about the concerns with the greater supply chain, because we all know Nvidia can design as many chips as they want. As the Grok CEO says, we are completely compute constrained. If you don't have compute security, you're not going to be able to generate things with AI. And if you can't generate things, then you're gonna fall behind. It's like energy, right? When you don't have energy, we can't turn on the lights at supermarkets. People can't go buy their groceries. You get really hungry, you get really sad, and nobody likes to be sad, let alone hungry at the same exact time. So simply put, we need a lot of compute, and Jensen says they're the epicenter of this compute industrial revolution, right? Everybody needs it. We got it. But we can only make 5.5 million chips right now, and that's a problem because the world wants tens of millions of chips. And if they could make them, people would buy them. Trump, the damn president of the United States, would buy them if he could. So we need to talk about this. We know Nvidia can design chips. After all, they have these ridiculously high margins, which makes them the most valuable company in the world by a pretty wide margin at this point. But what about the other parts of the supply chain? Let's talk about them. Let's speed through this a little bit. The biggest bottleneck or the biggest hurdle for this great infrastructure build out. So first, the manufacturers, the companies who are actually building out the things that Nvidia and AMD and Broadcom design. Now, the biggest one is TSM, which you've probably heard me mention one or two times on this channel. In fact, Nvidia secured 70% of TSM's available packaging capacity for 2025. And they're literally having them build out an entire facility that's employing over 7,000 people and producing 240,000 chips just to support Nvidia's demand. That's not all. We need to make the chip, but to make the chip, we also need memory because things are moving around very fast. Information has to flow from one place to another pretty much instantaneously. And the only way to do that is with some really fast cabling, really fast memory. And what do you know? Micron Technology is one of the companies that are capable of manufacturing this high bandwidth memory to place on these chips and give them this very high bandwidth. What do you know? They literally sold out in 2025. And good luck in 2026. It's probably only going to get bigger. Now, I really want to get into this one, the energy providers, because I think if there's any sector that's getting underrated or underprojected, and albeit maybe that is Nvidia. We literally just did an entire analysis on why Wall Street is completely and grossly underestimating Nvidia's value. That may sound absurd, that may sound bubble-like, but I promise you, watch the video. And since that video, we've seen Nvidia jump from what, 176 to 205? So yeah, pretty crazy how spot on we were with that. And so imagine this AI data center infrastructure is a big pillar, right? You have your chips, you have your memory, your cabling, your cooling technology, all these things together, but in order for your chips to actually do anything, you need power. And power might be a big problem. You see, right now, actually, this is 2 years ago, which makes the point even more absurd. 2 years ago, in 2023, data centers required more electricity, a higher electricity demand than basically every country on the entire planet, more than our good Frenchmen over there. And by 2030, this demand may triple, may quadruple, we don't really know, but just based on these projections, may triple by 2030, sitting basically right behind India. So I think you can begin to see where this trend is going. AI data center share of total energy sales. Holy moly. Now I want to bring your attention to this deal, 6 gigawatts. This deal, 10 gigawatts. This deal, 10 gigawatts. Are you starting to see where we're going with this? Electricity usage from data centers alone is absolutely skyrocketing, and I'm not sure we could have predicted just how many gigawatt buildouts we would actually need. I need you to consider for a second just how large 1 gigawatt is. You see this big ugly thing right here? That's your conventional nuclear reactor. This thing right here, you could expect one of these units to provide you about 1 gigawatt of power. But we just saw from an Nvidia and OpenAI deal alone that OpenAI wants to build out 10 gigawatts of Nvidia compute, 6 gigawatts of AMD compute, 10 gigawatts of power. You get the point. There's a lot of power that is needed. And one of these gigawatts can power the homes of basically 1 million people. So 10 gigawatts, we're talking about more power than is needed by the whole city of New York City, one of the largest cities in the world with over 8.5 million people living there. So if these wild dreams are to come to fruition, we're going to need some major power buildouts as well. Oh, and did I mention Project Stargate, one of the biggest undertakings of a data center that the world has ever seen? Did I mention partnerships between Nvidia, AMD, and the US Department of Energy to build the biggest supercomputer the world has ever seen? These things need a lot of energy, and the demand is only getting more and more absurd. The exascale computing project, the biggest project the world has ever seen. A project that Nvidia actually provided a lot of compute to the US government to build out this mega supercomputer to facilitate in the advancements of these major technologies, right? Like nuclear fusion, like genetic manipulation. That exascale compute project was working on a scale of exaflops. In other words, 10 quintillion operations per second. For 1 gigawatt of data center, you could potentially see about 10 to 200 billion trillion. Yes, billion trillion. First time I've ever said that out loud. Floating point operations per second. A lot of stuff is going on at the same time. And to feed that beast, we need to rely on energy providers. Now, I know where your mind might go right away. President Trump, he's releasing all these nuclear initiatives to really streamline the nuclear development process. After all, there's a lot of red tape, mainly because we don't want to end up with another Chernobyl. So the United States said, hey guys, let's just take it easy on the whole nuclear development thing and rely on other forms of energy. Now we see Trump's pushing that all aside, and he's saying, hey, we're going all in on the nuclear development build out, partially because it's one of the cleanest energy sources that we have today, that's manageable and reliable and something we can actually build. And then your mind might jump to some of these more innovative, these bleeding technologies like small modular reactors, like we're seeing with Oklo. The stock has jumped, 20x over the past 6 months. There's a lot of promise here, and it looks quite beautiful. So it makes for some good marketing, makes for some good hype for the stock. Also, the United States and the UK are working to really facilitate and build out these new technologies, these small modular reactors, whether it's through Oklo, whether it's through another one that's coming onto the market through a SPAC and terrestrial energy. See, this is where I think we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. You see, the data center build out isn't happening in 2 years, isn't happening in 3-4 years. It's happening right now. All this data center spending we're seeing, a lot of it is literally starting to be seen and recognized in data center build out today. And so we can't rely on these new alternative forms of energy that might be available by 2026, 2027. Fusion energy through Commonwealth Fusion Systems, CFS, by 2030. These things need to be in place right now. And so if Trump is yelling at us, he's going all in on the AI data center infrastructure build out, then we need the energy today, not tomorrow, not 5 years from now. And who is best positioned right now to take advantage and reap the fruits. This is where I talked about two companies in particular. The AI stock that still nobody is talking about. Vistra and Constellation Energy. Now, why do I bring up those names in particular? Well, mainly because they're two of the companies with the largest amount of nuclear generation capacity. Also two of the biggest utility companies when it comes to carbon-free generation in general. Now, they already have the capacity to do so. The only thing that needs to happen is they need to sign some big contracts with some big players. And that's a mystery. Will Vistra do it? Will Constellation do it? We don't know what company's going to do it. But the point is, we need somebody that already has infrastructure, that already has expertise in building these things out and maintaining them to step up and deliver right now. Now, the roots to this analysis go even a little bit deeper than just, hey, we have a lot of data centers that need power, so let's look at power providers. There's an additional level of logic that we need to understand. Companies in general like to claim on their products, on their websites, because it looks good for marketing and you're all carbon neutral, you're green, you're for green energy, right? You want to save the environment. This carbon neutral claim is a big part of the reality that we're living in today. We're seeing companies continually pledge and make commitments to becoming carbon neutral by a certain ambiguous date in the future. Some of those companies being your Microsofts, your Googles, your Amazons, your Metas. What do all those companies have in common? What is the overarching theme of it all? Well, they're all buying from Nvidia to build out data centers. And if they want any chance at being carbon neutral, they should probably work off of some clean energy when they provide it to their data centers. Now, yes, have these stocks in Constellation and Vistra ran up already? Yeah, they have. I mean, look at this here. Vistra was the 23rd best performing stock on the entire market in 2024. Also one of the best in 2025 thus far. Constellation, same exact thing. Utilities, usually a pretty sleepy sector, right? Somewhere you go for safety, to get away from all the big technologies and really just ride the wave of solid dividends and a slow but consistent uptrend. We've seen massive moves in these companies, but that's not based on Fugazi. We've seen massive increases in the fundamental underpinning of what makes these companies grow. The demand for electricity. And the price of that electricity is going up. To your benefit, you get to pay more for electricity as well. Lucky you. And I want to keep this video rather short because, again, I've made a video going into this in a lot more detail. And I saw Vistra and Constellation were down pretty big today. I thought this was even more relevant and useful. Final thing I want to do is look at, hey, what do Vistra and Constellation usually do after and during earnings? Because after all, they're coming up and we expect some decent things to come out of these earnings as demand is so very great compared to what it has been in prior years, right? So let's run a strategy. Let's run a trading strategy where we buy the day of earnings of Vistra, of Constellation, two of the companies that should benefit the most from this massive data center build out that Nvidia is leading. How do they usually perform if we buy the day of earnings and sell 30 days later? Just something interesting to look at. There you go. We returned $22,000 from an initial cash of $100,000, 23% gain over that time, and you won more than half of the trades you took, which is great. But I hate to tell you this, that you underperformed the market by about 63%. And it gets even more absurd when you look at just the aggregate of Constellation and Vistra. If you just own them straight up, you'd be sitting at about $700,000 in cash. Obviously, we can't go back in time and predict exactly what would have happened with these companies in this massive run up, but just providing some insight here. Again, it is a winning strategy combined with a buy and hold of the overall market, so that is something to keep in mind. There's some pretty wild moves, as you can see, 31% to the upside, 31% to the downside. But at the end of the day, Nvidia is going to win. We all know that at this point. I've talked about it ad nauseum. But for these software companies like OpenAI that need to, make back some of the hundreds of billions of dollars that they're spending on this AI data center infrastructure build out, they're gonna need a lot of power to, get these chips up and running and to train their models and use their models. To do that, we're going to need some winners. We're going to need the Oklos to develop their small modular reactors. Eventually, nuclear fusion, which is coming, but nobody really knows when. The Nvidia supercomputer should speed up development of nuclear fusion, but again, it's uncertain. So we need the players right now. And two of those players that are most likely to benefit right now, today, tomorrow, and in the coming years are Vistra and Constellation. So I hope this helped give some perspective on this AI data center infrastructure pipeline, because it's complicated. There's a whole lot going on here. And if you've made it this far, subscribe, like, and comment. Tell me if you have Vistra. Tell me if you have Constellation. Tell me if you have Nvidia, of course, and let me know what you think about your holding. Should you sell? Should you buy more? Let's talk about it. That's it for me. So thank you, as always, for watching, and I'll see you very soon. Toodles now. Bye-bye.